Welcome to Soul Light Channel. I was born in Saudi Arabia into a deeply religious family. From the moment I could speak, I was taught the words of the Quran. Our lives revolved around prayer, fasting, and the traditions passed down through our generations. My father was an imam, highly respected in our community. He had deep knowledge of Islam, and his devotion to our faith was clear. He was strict but kind, always making sure that I understood the importance of our beliefs as Muslims. My mother, though quieter about her faith, was equally devoted. I would often see her sitting quietly with her prayer beads, whispering her supplications. Growing up, I never questioned any of it. Islam wasn't just a religion to me. It was my identity, my culture, and my way of life. My parents taught me that our faith gave us purpose, structure, and a place in the world. I respected them deeply and believed that following their path was the only way to live a meaningful life. But one day, something happened that changed my life forever. It was an ordinary afternoon. I was at the campus library, passing the time between my classes. I had always liked the quiet of the library, and it was my place to go when I wanted to clear my mind. As I wandered through the aisles, my eyes fell on a small, worn book sitting on one of the tables. It was a Bible. At first, I hesitated. I had never held a Bible before. There was no reason for me to, especially since I had been taught that the Bible was a distorted text. But for some reason, I felt curious. So, I picked it up and began flipping through the pages. I don't know how long I sat there, but I came across a verse in the book of Matthew. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." These words stopped me. I read them again, slowly, trying to understand why they touched me so deeply. There was a tenderness in the way it was written, an invitation that felt personal. I didn't know much about Jesus, only what I had learned in Islam, that he was a prophet, but not the Son of God. Yet, in that moment, I found myself wondering about him in a way I never had before. I couldn't stop thinking about those words. Even though I tried to push the thoughts away, something inside me had changed. I didn't realize it at the time, but this was the beginning of a journey that would lead me down a completely different path. At university, I was surrounded by people from all kinds of backgrounds. There were students from different religions, and even some who didn't believe in anything at all. We often had deep discussions about life and spirituality. I listened closely to the Christians among my friends, noticing how they talked about their faith with a sense of peace and joy. They spoke about Jesus like he was a friend, someone who loved them personally and unconditionally. I had never heard anyone talk about God like that before. I couldn't help but be curious. How could they be so certain? How could they find joy in their faith, even when life was hard? These thoughts lingered in my mind, and before long, I found myself wanting to know more. I borrowed a copy of the Bible from the library, hiding it under my jacket because I didn't want anyone to see. That night, when everyone else was asleep, I pulled it out and started reading. I told myself I was just trying to understand what Christians believed, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. Every night, I read a little more. The words of Jesus stirred something inside me that I hadn't felt before. I felt like I was being pulled between two worlds, the faith I had always known and this new curiosity about Jesus. I felt guilty, like I was betraying my family, my upbringing, and everything I had ever believed. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was searching for something more. One evening, as I sat on my bed, I opened the Bible to a verse from John. "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." I read the words over and over, feeling the weight of them. My heart was heavy with questions, and I didn't know who to turn to for answers. In that moment, I closed my eyes and silently prayed for guidance, though I wasn't even sure who I was praying to, Allah or the Jesus I had been reading about. Then, something incredible happened. I suddenly felt a presence in the room. It was so strong that I couldn't deny it. My heart raced, and when I opened my eyes, I saw a figure standing before me. It was Jesus. I had never seen him before, but deep in my heart, I knew it was him. He was surrounded by a soft, warm light, and the peace that filled the room was overwhelming. It wasn't like anything I had ever experienced. His eyes radiated pure love, love that saw every part of me, even my doubts and fears. He didn't say much, but his words changed everything. He looked at me with that love and said, "I love you, and I will always be by your side." In that moment, I felt his love wash over me. It wasn't like any love I had ever known. It was perfect, unconditional, and eternal. All my doubts, guilt, and confusion melted away. I knew, without any question, that Jesus was real, that he loved me, and that this was the truth I had been searching for. After that, I made the decision to follow Jesus, even though I knew it would come at a great cost. Telling my family was the hardest thing I've ever done. My father was furious, and my mother wept. They couldn't understand, and I couldn't make them see what I had experienced. My father gave me an ultimatum: return to Islam or leave the house. I knew I couldn't turn back, so I left, with nothing but a small suitcase and a heart full of faith. Since then, my life has been full of challenges, but I've never regretted my decision. Jesus has been with me every step of the way, just like he promised. His love has carried me through the darkest moments, and his peace has filled my heart in ways I never thought possible. I am no longer bound by fear or doubt. I have found the truth, and it has set me free.